Hello and welcome back to another video, and today we are here for the second round of the RRacing League season here on MotoGP 21. Now if you haven't seen the previous episode, I do recommend you go check that one out just to explain what the league is in the calendar. But the second round of the season is the Japanese Grand Prix at Motegi. So without any further ado, let's head straight into qualifying and see how I got on. So overall, qualifying was better than the previous race. My pace was a little bit better, a bit closer to what I've been doing in practice. We're going to start off here by showing my best lap of the session. I think it was a 1 minute 43.7. As we tip it into the first corner, miss the apex just a touch, but it is one of those corners where it goes back on itself. Again, not quite clipping the apex, but you don't need to quite touch the curbs. In fact, if anything on this track, you want to avoid the curbs a little bit because you can get a lot of wheel spin on them. Braking for turn 3. Trying to get right on the inside there, just missing the apex once again, and we touched the curb on the outside there. So far, not the best lap, but it's not been too bad. There's somebody off on the right-hand side down in Suzuki, and we're currently 2/10 off pole in the first section. You can see Nerb is on pole, and if you guys know who Nerb is, you'll know how fast he is. So we go into turn 5 a little bit wide there, although I could have used a little bit more room on the exit of the corner, potentially, but tipping it through 130R, then the rear sliding quite a bit there. 8 tenths down now on Nerb as we tip it into turn 7, very, very wide, so a bit of a mistake there, and that's obviously messes up the S-curve completely because you're on the total wrong line. You have to try and get back on line, you sacrifice that corner so that you can get a decent run through the V corner. Plague seems to be disconnected here, but I think he does rejoin again before the race. But out of the V corner then, up towards the hairpin curve, the corner I always diss the name of, slamming on the brakes, down the gears, into the hairpin curve, a little bit wide, but you want to cut back for a late apex, and that was probably about the best I did at the entire session. I could have used a little bit more room though on the left hand side. You can see there is a little bit there. We could have run it right to the white line to get a better exit. There we go, then down towards the 90-degree corner, braking a little bit early there actually. As we tip it in, yeah, you can see I was right on the apex, so really I could have probably braked a little bit later and pushed it a bit more in there, but I suppose you don't want to invalidate your lap or crash in qualify. But into the last chicane then, a little bit wide through victory corner, so not a perfect lap at all, and you're going to see that in the lap time as we come up towards the line. We've not got much fuel on board, but 43.7 is not too bad for me around this circuit, but I know I can probably go a few tenths quicker than that. You can see there's a few mistakes. But this is later on in the session. I dived into the pits with the intent to go onto soft tyres, and I crashed in the pit lane entry, which actually made it so I didn't have enough time. You can see I would have been cutting it fine anyway, only 2 minutes 20 left in the session. And yeah, that the crash really cost me there. I wasn't able to do a run on soft tyres at the end. The first run, of course, was on medium tyres, so obviously it wouldn't be as quick. But at the end of the session then, Nerb, unsurprisingly on pole position, ahead of Alan in second, Rishi third, Sven fourth, and Dill in fifth. Now you see on the timing screen it says I'm in 9th place, but I'm actually in 10th because there's been a glitch with, I think it was Karma this time. His time was actually good enough for 8th place, but it put him down the order. Actually, he might have been slightly higher than 8th place, but you can see 15th there, 1.2 off. So that was a little bit strange, which is why I actually get moved down a position in the race because they took it into account. So starting 10th place on the grid, even worse than last time, even though I thought last time it was going to be a bit of a comeback ride required from 8th place on the grid, but 10th is even worse, and my pace at Motegi wasn't as good, I don't think, as it was at Qatar. I was much closer to the front guys, I felt, at Qatar. But my battle really isn't with the front guys, it is with Mystic Prune, as I said in the previous race. Unfortunately, he got taken out the first corner at Qatar, so it kind of ruled him out for the race, but it's mainly him and Crombo that are around my pace, so I'll be targeting them. Once again on mediums as well, just like in the last race. That seems to work at pretty much every track. But let's get this race started then. Hopefully it goes well. So here we are then on the starting grid. You see Nerb on the Pramac on pole position. Alan alongside Rishi, my teammate, on the front row. Hoping for a good result for Rishi as well, of course, for the team's championship that's also going alongside this league. But here we are then. The lights are on. Waiting for the lights to go out here at Motegi. Lights out and away we go. Pretty poor start. Brighty had an amazing start once again, just like in Qatar. As we break for the first corner, tipping it in. Karma goes absolutely barreling in and takes out Prune, and I've been hit from behind, so Mystic goes down. I almost went down as well. I think it was Vazels that hit me from behind, and it sent me into the KTM that had already gone down, and I almost fell off because of that, but we got away with it. Mystic Prune actually leaves the lobby there. I don't blame him. 2 races in a row taking out the first corner. Someone off in the gravel over there, and we've almost been collecting, and the Ducati's down. I don't really know how the Ducati fell off there. I think it might have been a bit of lag or something, but he seemed to fall off for no reason, and all of a sudden I'm back up to 9th place now, behind fellow Honda rider Blake JR, obviously Dill's teammate on the LCR Honda Castrol. We're coming out of turn 5, makes a bit of a mistake. We're going to the left-hand side. Bit of touching on the way into 130. Oh, that's dangerous there. But we're right on the back of him once again. We can have a look at the inside of this left-hander. Here we go. Up the inside into turn 7, up into 8th position. And somehow, even though we got punted off at the first corner, we've actually made up positions. Although I think that's just from Mystic Prune and Karma, to be honest. Obviously, having their own incidents. Obviously, Karma wiped out Mystic Prune and then actually fell off again. Well, not again, but he fell off himself a few corners later. But up towards the line then at the end of this first lap, 1.3 seconds behind Brighty. So we've got to try and catch up to Brighty and Crombo just in front of him. Those two are the riders we're battling with. But cutting later on, Rishi is actually down. So later on lap 2, Rishi drops it at the V corner, and that puts him up to 7th place. And here we are at the start of the third lap, end of the second lap. The gap is now down to 7/10 of a second to Brighty in front. 44.2 there, so we are lapping quicker than the two riders ahead of us here, which is very, very promising indeed. After a bit of a, well, a kind of poor start. I mean, I made positions up, but I lost time because obviously I got punted wide and then got stuck behind Blake JR for a few corners as well. So I was having to make up time to my potential rivals. Looks like Brighty's probably about on my pace as well, since he's going with Crombo. But we're now only half a second behind him, so really we're going to be thinking about sizing up Brighty for a move as soon as possible. A little bit wary of him though, of course, because of the previous race where he absolutely wiped up Mystic Prune. But he makes a bit of a mistake into turn 5, almost hits Crombo at the back there, and that puts us up into 6th position. We've just managed to cut underneath him, so we've now got 9/10 to the Suzuki rider in front of us, and at the end of the lap we've already cut that down to 6/10, another 1 minute 44.2, so pretty consistent so far, and a little bit quicker than the guys around us. It looks like we are going to be fighting for 5th position for this racer. A position I kind of expected to get in Qatar, really. I was expecting 5th, but obviously we got lucky with a few crashes and then disconnects, which ended us up into 2nd position, which is why we're actually currently 2nd in the championship. But enough about that then. Crombo runs a little bit wide through turn 4. He clips the inside curve on turn 4 as well, so not the best corner for him. We've got a really, really good run on him. Are we going to look at the inside? I'm looking at the inside, but it's just so difficult to outbrake people at this track because you have to be so precise on the brakes, and the brakes are so poor on MotoGP 21, so we weren't able to pull off the move there. So we're probably going to have to wait till a little bit further around the lap, or maybe the start of the next one. But here we are on the start of the next one. Only 3/10 behind, dropping a little bit the lap time on this lap though, 44.5. So now that we're actually right behind him, we are being held up a little bit. I felt I was a few tenths quicker than him, but of course it's so difficult to make a pass around here. You need to have a really, really big pace advantage, because if you go a little bit hot into the corner, it completely ruins your exit, and yeah, you just can't get close to someone if you try and outbrake them. But he's gone a little bit wide though through turn 4, and this time we've got a really good run because he went all the way onto the curb. Here we go, round the outside. I think we've got the position up into 5th place, but we've missed the apex. We broke a little bit too late. He's back underneath through turn 5 onto the curb. Myself, Brighty, maybe even potentially having a bit of a run there because of course we lost quite a bit of time through 130. Oh yeah, here comes Brighty. Actually, he's having a look into the left-hander of turn 7, but I think we've just got it because we had the inside. Yeah, and he's gone, you can see, through the S-curve, so we've got back. Well, we never actually dropped behind Brighty, but we've put Brighty at bay there. And a little bit of a mistake once again at the end of the 5th lap, about to start lap 6 from Crombo. So we're right back on the back of him. We lost a bit of time, of course, with that move that we messed up, the botched overtake, but we're right on the back of him because he ran a little bit wide through the chicane. So here we go then, out of turn 2, on the run down towards turn 3. Can we do anything about it? There's been a crash behind for Dr. Monster, but on the brakes into turn 3, we're closing right up to the back of him, but I've lost the rear, almost hit him at the back actually. We've gone off, we've gone into the penalty loop, and that's cost me a load of time to him, so we're now 8/10 behind him. Fortunately, Brighty had actually dropped back a little bit, otherwise he would have probably got through. But cutting to the end of the 7th lap now, start of lap 8, Crombo makes a big mistake there, which actually I later found out was a screen freeze. So we've got a screen freeze through the first part of the chicane, and that allowed me to get the move on him. So really unfortunate that the good battle was ended that way, but that's just how these things go. And on to lap 9 now, there's actually a crash once again caused by a screen freeze. So it's really unfortunate that some of the issues in the game are causing some bad issues for some riders in the race. And cutting on to lap 11, you see Brighty also goes down. So it looks like 5th place is secure, but then look who is behind us, Rishi, and he's only 4 seconds behind. So a crash, and he's recovered to 4 seconds behind me. It's absolutely unbelievable the pace he had in this race. I mean, this is probably his best track, I would have thought, but unbelievable. He's crashed, and he's only 3 seconds. We've come to lap 12, but we're coming around to lap Hegs, so people actually getting lapped in this race. I think there was a couple of lappers in the previous one as well, but here he goes. He just brakes on the racing line. I almost went down, went to the back of him, and if you notice the gap was a good 3 seconds tipping into that corner, and it's now 1.9. So the back markers not getting out the way very well and costing me a good amount of time to Rishi. But here we are then on the start of lap 14. Only 4 tenths behind me now is Rishi, so it's going to be a matter of time before he makes a pass. We're also catching up to another black marker. I think that's Plague on the Petronas Yamaha in front of us as we go through turn 2. But I think Plague does get out of the way pretty well. Yeah, here he goes. In fact, he goes onto the grass to let us out of the way. So there we go. Up into 5th position. You've got 17 seconds ahead to Dill on another Honda, obviously the LCR Honda. So yeah, we are miles behind the leaders, and that is why Rishi has been able to catch us up, because, well, I was about 17 seconds off the leaders at this point, and Rishi's got a really good run though on the brakes down towards turn 5. The rear steps out a little bit again. We're a little bit wide, actually quite wide there, and here comes Rishi. You can see he's up the inside, side by side, the two Repsol Hondas. Of course, you don't want to have a crash with your teammate, especially since he's probably the faster one of the two of us, so he's the one that's going to be going for any kind of championship glory here, even though he had bad luck in the previous race and ended up behind me due to the disconnect. I think he probably is the faster one, so we don't really want to mess him up here. But I also wanted that 5th place, but cutting onto the final lap, you can see we're only 1.2 seconds behind. So in about 4 laps or so there, I actually managed to stick with him, which was very, very interesting. If you look on the right-hand side of the screen, there are my lap times. I was solidly 44s the entire race, 44.2 you saw me do quite a few times. But on those last few laps, 43.6, 43.4, 43.7, and this, the last lap of the race, actually was my fastest lap of the race. So you can see we're currently 1.3 seconds behind, and we actually were really, really fast right at the end of this race. I was pushing very, very hard, because you can see the gap behind to Vazel's is 46 seconds. So we've got 47 seconds to play with almost, actually, because it's 46.9. So if you crash, you can easily get back on, even with the bike retrieval in front of him. So I had nothing to lose. I thought I'd just give it a go, see if I could try and get back onto the back of Rishi, maybe force him into a little error and get in front of him, because, of course, like I said, he is most likely the one to be fighting for the championship. But that doesn't mean I'm not going to try and beat him in the races. I definitely am going to go for it, especially since at the minute I am ahead in the championship standings. I want to keep it that way as long as I can. But you can see 1.1, so with about a sector to go, I think he is just going to be able to hang on. But here we are then into the hairpin curve. He was very, very good out here. You see the gap probably will increase a little bit. 1.2 seconds. Actually, no, I was a little bit wrong there. I thought he was gapping me out of there, but seems to be about the same, hovering about 1.1, 1.2 as we go down towards their 90-degree corner. Meanwhile, Nerb has already finished the race, so an absolutely dominant display from Nerb. I think Alan looks like he's in second with Sven in third, but cutting back to us through turn 12. It's not going to be enough, unfortunately, so we are going to finish in 6th position, which is still a good result. The top 5 are absolute aliens in this league, so I should be really aiming for 6th place, best of the rest, but up towards the line, 6th place in this race. Not quite the lofty heights of 2nd, but I think a much better ridden race for me overall. Qatar, I felt like I was miles off the pace, and I didn't really deserve that position, so I think Motegi kind of felt better, but just unfortunate that we lost to Rishi at the end. I think if I beat Rishi, I'd actually have felt very, very good about the race. But there you go, you can see the final results. Nerb won then ahead of Alan in 2nd. Dill actually ended up in 3rd because Sven had a long lap penalty, which dropped him behind to 4th. 5th then for Rishi, myself in 6th position. And I was actually the last person to finish within the 40-second time limit, so the positions behind aren't quite 100% right. I think actually it was Vazel's ended up behind me, but it put Dr. Monster ahead on this little bit at the end there. But Vazel's was more than 3 seconds in front of Dr. Monster, so his long lap wasn't the reason for it, so I'm not 100% sure. And then obviously Dr. Monster must have been 8th. John and Ninja in 9th. I guess I'm not 100% sure who was behind him, because I don't really have the top 9 here, but yeah, that was the race results, and a pretty decent race overall. My pace wasn't too bad, especially since I got kind of sent off at the first corner and had a bit of a fight back through the pack for a couple of laps as well. And then my main rivals all crashed, really, so that's just how these things go. So it's unfortunate to miss out on the battle for 5th place with Rishi. But looking at the championship standings now, because that's really what counts, Alan leads the way with the 1st and a 2nd position. You've got to watch out for Nerb, though, in 4th position, only doing one of the races so far. And he's already up to 4th place, only 5 points behind me, and I'm actually still in 2nd in the championship because of obviously my really good result in Qatar. Decent result here in Motegi as well, actually keeps me in the running there in 2nd place. Dill only 1 point behind me though in 3rd. Obviously, as I mentioned before, Nerb in 4th, Crombo in 5th position there. And you can see he got 12th place. He actually had an issue where I think he fell off because of one of his screen freezes, and then he couldn't pick up the bike. So it just put him into spectator mode, so there was a little bit of an issue for him there. Sven in 6th place, obviously not a very good result in Qatar after the controller issue. Most of these guys behind me are probably going to end up behind me, but if we can get top 5 in the championship, that would be fantastic. Speaking of one of the other aliens behind me, it is Rishi. That's the top 7, the main guys that I'm concerned with, obviously the aliens, and then Crombo. But that's the Riders' Championship. Looking at the Teams Championship, currently being led by Monster Energy Yamaha, as you'd expect, because of course they're leading the Riders Championship. Although C-Fire wasn't in this race, so they were a little bit of a disadvantage there, but they beat both the Repsol Hondas, so we're still in second position, myself and Rishi. Third place for the LCR Honda Castrol team, fourth for Pramac, fifth for Suzuki, sixth for Avintia, seventh for KTM. Petronas Yamaha then in 8th place, LCR Honda Idemitsu in 9th, Tech 3 KTM in 10th, Ducati Factory Racing, or the Ducati Lenovo team in 11th, and the Sky VR46 Avintia yet to participate in any races, so still at the bottom of the pack. But that was round 2 then. Like I was saying, it's a little bit unfortunate that some of these guys have been getting some major issues, but there's not really much I can do about that. I've just got to hope that the issues don't happen to me, and hopefully the season actually does continue. But I hope you guys did enjoy that race. It was a much better one than the previous one. We had some good battles throughout, so I hope you guys did enjoy that one. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Hope you're all staying safe, and I shall see you in the next one.